Alright, hey guys, so you might have noticed I accidentally left my desktop audio on there during the countdown while I was getting some stuff set up with this Lyra starter game. I apologize for that. But Unreal Engine 5 just released a couple of days ago. I have multiple videos on the way. One that's pretty much ready to go now. I'll post it probably Monday, first thing Monday morning. But for now, I figured I'd stream the Lyra starter game in Unreal Engine 5. Now, there's a ton of stuff here. I haven't had time to look into all of it myself. I've started looking into the Locomotion system, but there's just a ton of stuff here. So I figured I'd start off just by playing it a bit on stream, showing you guys what's here in case you haven't had a chance to test it out yourself. I think I hit the wrong thing. There we go. Let me know how the desktop audio sounds. I don't want it to be too loud in comparison to my voice, but I want you guys to be able to hear it too. And it's hard for me to tell as I'm streaming. So one thing I want to point out about this is that there are all sorts of options here built into it, and I've read from the documentation that it's built in a way that you can just take a whole lot of this stuff and build your own things on top of it or customize it. I haven't had a chance to look at the UI stuff myself, but I know they're using a newer plugin that's part of Unreal Engine 5, and that alone is really exciting because there's tons of built-in stuff here, and I'm sure a great foundation to build out more on top of inside the project. For now, I'm just going to, let's see, start up a game and just show you guys. So the Locomotion system here is really interesting, really well put together. It uses layers in a really interesting way. So let's see if I can talk while I play. But yeah, the animation system, it has distance matching, orientation warping, stride warping. It has pretty much everything. Pivots, start, stops, it's all here. It's definitely going to speed along my progress with the system I'm trying to build to make a series on. There are layers for... There's essentially an anim layer with custom anim that you can set. So there's an anim layer essentially for each item you can hold, including then, of course, an unarmed anim layer as well. And yeah, I'm having trouble thinking and playing. But yeah, there's an unarmed animation layer. And it has full unarmed animations for what you need for pretty much an entire animation system. More animations than Paragon characters, and I have a terrible aim. Still in here somewhere. Is it left? Guess not left. But also, if you listen to this pretty closely, I don't know, I haven't looked at it yet, but the audio, I'm pretty sure is entirely edited just from what I've heard with it. That's what it sounds like to me. There are three game modes. The third one, like a top-down sort of party game. It wasn't working for me last time I tried it, but there's a control game mode, which is what I'm playing now, where you have to capture points and control them, and I'm doing terribly. And then there's just an elimination game. As you guys can probably all tell, I'm pretty bad at this. I spend more time developing games than I do playing them. And it's been a while since I've shots. The reason why I'm just trying to show you guys some of the gameplay here is just to convey how polished this is. You can probably see it visually, but I'd really recommend just playing it yourselves, getting the demo game project downloaded. There's so much polish. Particle effects, sounds, animation, everything is built out in a fantastic way, and it's a fantastic learning resource. I've learned a ton about animation systems, and I've barely scratched. I don't think I've scratched. Maybe I've scratched the surface of what's there, but yeah, I do not. I don't know. Maybe I will actually win this round. I think that was actually my first kill of the game. There we go. So that is the control game mode, and there's one more to elimination, and I'm not nearly as good as that at that. Just because it's pretty much purely skill based, while with control I can just hide behind corners and follow the enemies around and stand in the rooms I need to stand in. Well, this one, a bit more difficult though. I think I found a pretty good strategy for it the day Unreal Engine 5 launched, and that's it. Just hide behind this sign. Well, it's a good strategy for not dying. It's not a great strategy for winning. So let's just stand. This works great as cover while the enemies are over there. The AI for these enemies, the decision tree is something I really want to look at. I'll probably take a look at that during the stream today because I haven't looked at that yet. I'm not sure what hotkey there is for the grenade, but I think it's spotted. Maybe a gun. I'm not sure how many of the sounds are using metasounds. They might all be using it. I'm pretty sure the music is. It just sounds synthesized, and I know metasounds has capability for just pretty much build custom synthesizers inside of it. From what I've seen, I'm not a sound person. I have no experience with any of the sound stuff, so I could be completely wrong about that. Yeah, I'm not gonna let this run for the next 10 minutes, but so I quit the game here, and as a main menu, it has loading screens. It has so much. There's a complete game here, guys. And it is really awesome. So let's see if we can open up one of the actual levels. Like I said, I haven't looked into this much. I've looked at the animation stuff a bit, and that's it. So this stuff is still all pretty much new to me here. There should be a maps file somewhere. Environments, maybe? Nope. Game system. So system. Okay, maybe that's it. Let's see. Huh. No, not there. Gosh, I know the maps have to be somewhere. Let's see. If I can... I just knew what the maps were called. I could search them up and then figure out where they're located in the project file structure. Let's see, so it's gameplay effects input. Doubt it would be in here. No. Maybe it is in system. No, it's just this map here. Or maybe... Let's try opening this. Nope, this is the menu map. Okay. So... where would the maps for the game be? Would they be... Aha. I believe. Or wait, here we go. Maps. Awesome. So the reason they're in a folder that's a plugin folder is because this Lyra starter game is using the modular gameplay system that's new to Unreal Engine 5 that allows you to sort of attach gameplay features on as plugins to a project. And so it looks like one of those things attached is Shooter Core, and the maps are contained within it, or well, not Shooter Core exactly, but shooter maps content. So it's an interesting way of structuring the project. I'm not going to say much more about it until I look at this more and try to understand the underlying reasoning behind it, because I'm not exactly sure what it all is. I can see advantages for like DLC and add-ons for just being able to package maps and all sorts of things into a plugin that can just be enabled, and then it's built in a way so that once that's enabled, you can use the abilities it adds or go to the maps it adds, that kind of thing. It's interesting. There's a background map, and is it just mirrored? Does the glass look fantastic in this? Okay, here is, I think, one of the actual maps. I'm loading the world partition cells in. Okay. It's not a map that I recognize. What map are we in? Yeah, I do not recognize this one. That's interesting. Oh. But then over here, it's the same map. So there's this other stuff over here. Are these are portals or something, aren't they? Yeah, that's probably a pretty big task. Yeah, a lot of the gameplay is added on modularly, and then there are at least like 50 C++ classes too that all do things. So I'm not sure. I guess you probably looked at those because I think that's where lots of the Lyra code and stuff is. So I haven't looked at that yet, so I won't be much help there. What I've been doing is I've just been copying bit by bit the animation blueprint stuff over into a new project, trying to understand that. And once I get through that, I'm going to move on to looking through the other things here. But I just had a realization. I think these might be portals to different areas in the level, or maybe it'll come back around. I don't know, but there's a whole nother room over there. So I just want to test that real quick because I did not try jumping into these things yet. And so, yeah, teleport. They're teleporters. Okay. That's interesting. I don't know why I didn't catch on to that earlier. Ah, it put me right into this level. But I'm inside. Okay, that makes sense. I have bad aim. What happens if I go through during the game? here. Interesting. I can get... I'm not sure if that's the same gun I have, or... Well, that might be the other one. Yep, it's a shotgun. Cool. Yeah, these bots are great. I wonder how close they are to how the Fortnite bots work. Oh, wow. That's nice. That's good to know. Portals are here. Where is the other? Yeah, I cannot wait to dive into the decision trees that these bots use. Finally got one. Not even the other bot. I mean, I probably would have done that without the help of that bot. But yeah, these bots are great. I mean, they move like players. They really do. It looks like that to me. Yeah, their positioning can be, yeah, it's, gosh, it's like I turn, it seems like, I'm curious to see how they use the environment system. Close right there, because I feel like they haven't played this enough to have much of an idea, but it feels like they're kind of using cover sometimes, that they're able to very smartly position themselves in regards to that. Gosh, I am bad at this. I was standing right there. Anyway, so let's see if we can find the decision trees for him. I was going to look at some stuff in the level, but I think that might make for a more interesting stream. But just, gosh, this glass looks good. I'm not sure if my computer, the way the project's set up, so maybe I'm ray tracing the reflections, or I'm not sure. I'll have to look into that, but let's see if we can find the logic for the NPCs. Here we go. That didn't take me nearly as long to find as the levels did. Where did it open up at? I know it's here. Ah, here we go. Okay. Wow, that's simple. I expected complexity here. Oh, that's interesting you say that about the glass. In some instances, the glass is very green looking. For me, too. This glass specifically isn't, but the other glass I've noticed has been. I'm not sure where I can find it, here, or if I can find it in this level. Is there a, yeah, there's a post-process volume, so I can go ahead and check and see if, let's see, reflections is what I'll check first. I'm using Lumen. Yeah, I'm not ray tracing reflections. So it's Lumen reflections on the glass. What about, yeah, I don't know. I do not know. Or if Lumen is, I guess that means Lumen is working with the glass now. It wasn't working with transparency before. I think I remember seeing something about the main branch having support for so are those Lumen reflections or those screen space reflections on the glass? I'm not sure. So you just have a single selector here leading to two, one with for if it has ammo, one if it is out of ammo. So if it has ammo, it's going to run an EQS to detect an enemy. And if it finds an enemy, it's going to test if it's allowed to fire. And if it's allowed to fire, it's going to shoot. It's going to set focus. That's interesting. It's going to find. Okay. So let's. Okay, we'll come back to that. It's going to find the best position and then move to that best position. But if it cannot find the enemy, let's reload weapon. Search for a new weapon. Okay, that's interesting. So it's gonna, if it finds an enemy, it does this. If it doesn't find an enemy, it searches for a new weapon and then searches for an enemy here. Okay. And then if it's out of ammo, it searches for a weapon and then moves to that location. Okay, yeah, that I'll definitely have to check out how they do the glass because they nailed the look of it and it looks great in this project. You can really see it with the green tinted glass more than you can here, but yeah. Glass, I think, looks fantastic here. Wonder if I move the sun away and let's find the post process and let's find our exposure. And let's see if we can. So now let's see if that lighting updates. I'm just curious to see. So this stream, I'm just playing around in the Lyra starter game project. I just briefly got distracted, wanting to see if I could play the level with the different lighting, what that would look like. There's no reason really, I just wanted to see what would happen, actually. just Lumen. It really is amazing. I actually wanted to see what the level would look like if I took the sun out of the equation and just used bounce lighting from the couple of emissive things that there are here. And it looks like there's actually some lights placed. Yeah, there are more lights inside of here. There's definitely light coming through these windows. And I just have the sun pointed up, so maybe I get the directional light. I'm not sure what's fake light and what's bounced. So let's turn the intensity down to 0. I'm not seeing a difference here. I'm not sure where all of this light is coming from either. They're definitely... But it could be my exposure settings, I guess. Yeah, it's set to epic. Let's see. I think I probably just did something with the exposure settings just now. Yeah, it's on epic. So if I go back to the post-process volume, I think I just upped the exposure compensation to be too high. Yeah, that's better. That's... yeah. Oh, yeah. It's dark in here now. Without that light. It's a really different environment. I probably want to tweak the exposure a bit more. But... yeah, it's hard to see things, but still it's amazing how fast you can tweak lighting and get results that look so realistic and good. Yeah, just low light, just lighting with emissives. Yeah, you can really change the atmosphere of an area. Gosh, I'm gonna turn up my monitor brightness here. Too hard to see with the light, without any sunlight. There's a new exposure. There's some new exposure settings here, in Unreal Engine 5. And if we take a look at them here we go. Nope, we have the local exposure settings, and if I set that to something like 0.75 and then play, not sure why the standalone game, the visual is in it, and I'm not sure why the lighting is so different between the editor view and standalone game view. There might be some things here that I'm not aware of or that I'm not considering. Is the sky? Ah, the skylight's not real-time capture. Okay, that explains it. So now with a real-time capture skylight, I can grab... let's grab the exposure again. And let's... do 0.4, and I will just play in the selected viewport. Now the materials on these mannequins are interesting in the low light. They act in interesting ways, and then especially when you try to compensate with the exposure, it gives some interesting results. Gosh, even the emissive light from the sparks, lights up the environment around it. It's awesome that it's working. Like, gosh, that looks fantastic. That's one thing I wanted to try and see. It was one of my reasons for turning the light off, was I wanted to see what it'd look like when you shoot. With the muzzle flash, it's lighting up the pillar right next to me. Gosh. Yeah. I mean, you'd have to spawn in point lights and turn them on and off to get this effect without Lumen, but now it's just doing it. I mean, ray tracing, maybe you'd get that too, but Lumen, you get it without nearly as much of a tax on the hardware. I need to get myself a better gun. Where the heck is that coming from? Intended to go. No, not up here. Yeah, just the emissive lighting looks absolutely fantastic. I mean, just look at it over here. Gosh, it really does look like a offline render. Yeah, the light map quality is not turned up as high as it could be by default in this project. Yeah, you can see it like over there. As I move around this, it messes up a bit. But in general, gosh, it just looks... I love the effect that the emissive lighting has. Cool, cool. I'll have to look into that, I think. I was actually playing around with Lumen a bit the other day in an environment I was working on for another project. Back in the... I guess it was the other day after Unreal launched. But if you go to Global Illumination... Probably typed that wrong. Here we go. So Lumen, there's a final gather quality, which I'll up to... I'm just going to up all of these. The one that has a big effect is, let's see, where is it? Lumen scene lighting update speed and final gather lighting update. I'm just going to pump these values up and Lumen should update faster. But I'm curious to see what my frame rate is that I'm getting right now, because I've still the solid 70. Okay. Might change when I'm actually playing. I'm still getting a bit of that effect, but I'm sure there are more tweaks that can be done, and yeah, it's amazing how easy it is to get lighting close. People at Epic did a fantastic job lighting the level and placing the stuff down, but just you don't need to bake lights to get this amount of fidelity. I mean, I know it's here in the preview, but seeing a practical example of it in Lyra in this kind of environment, it really is amazing. It's not, I haven't seen Lumen used in this kind of environment yet with just, you know, emissive materials here or there. I mean, I've seen it, but I haven't played it, and there's a big difference. That's funny. The screen space, the damage effects light up the environment with the screen space lighting. That's funny. Wow. Oh, there's a lot of stuff in chat, so I'm gonna catch up on that real quick. I'm trying to follow along. Yeah, okay, so I've just missed the last couple of messages. Ah, okay. Yeah, yeah, definitely. I've really noticed the quality stuff going on with again, that environment I've mentioned a couple of times that I'm working on. I'm building a modular kit. Wow, I just really got deja vu there. Anyway, I'm building a modular kit, and I'm I've created all the blackout meshes that are just pretty much solid shapes that exist within a certain footprint for like walls, corners, floors, ceilings, vaulted ceilings, to more of a medieval fantasy environment. Not too super fantasy, so not typically what you'd imagine is a fantasy environment. But it's medieval but bigger, kind of, and I've noticed, yeah, Lumen doing some interesting, strange things on the large flat surfaces of my blockout meshes. But I want to look, I'm curious to see how it finds the best position, but I also want to take a look at the shooting. So if the controlled pawn is, had to yawn there. So if the controlled pawn is valid, get current weapon. And this is, what is this blueprint? BTS. Why? What does that stand for? Blueprint something. I'm not sure what though. So this is, oh yeah, so unfortunately I've been so busy with the regular locomotion stuff I haven't had time to look into the control rig and IK stuff yet, but gosh, there's so much there. Just from what I've seen, there's so many things I want to do with it. I just want to get a basic locomotion system. I want to get a locomotion system set up, and then I want to dive completely into that. I'll probably spend multiple streams playing around with that before I'm ready to make some videos on it. Yeah, there's some really exciting things with the IK, especially the runtime retargeting is really interesting in the IK retargeting, because just the IK retargeter is great because let's say you have two different characters with completely different, one character that's really tall, maybe not really tall, but a taller character and a shorter character, and you want to play the same walking animations where the steps are the same length so that you're not using stride warping as much for the foot sliding, or you might be stretching the legs on the smaller character too much. And classical retargeting, well, the smaller character's legs are shorter, so the steps would be shorter. But with the IK, I mean, you can affect that with stride warping, but the IK retargeting, I'm pretty sure you could just go around that because it's not, doesn't take into account that the legs are shorter. It sets IK targets where the feet of the taller character that you might be retargeting from are. I don't know. Maybe not. I don't know. I haven't run any tests with it, but I think it's really impressive. A couple of things, I've seen some people do some really impressive things with the IK retargeter. Behavior tree sequence. Yep, I bet that's it. So it's getting the weapon, and it's also checking if it still has ammo in the weapon. And also logic for changing to a new weapon. Okay. But where is it shooting? I kind of passed that up. So casting to Lyra inventory, item instance, get current weapon. It's setting it can shoot. I'm in the get current weapon. And if it can shoot, and if that's true, it's going to send gameplay event to actor. So using the gameplay event system, or gameplay, yeah, Lyra has a gameplay, I believe it uses I know it uses a gameplay ability system. I'm not sure if it's the gameplay ability system that was used with Unreal Engine 4 Gas, like with that RPG demo and the other things, but gosh, gameplay ability systems are fantastic. They're definitely just in terms of workflow, they're absolutely fantastic. It's something I'd love to cover eventually on the channel, but they're best created in C++. So I want to get familiar with a bit more familiar with C++ first, and I'd just be covering using them, not creating them, because I'm not a programmer at this point. I'd like to eventually be able to program much better than I can currently, but it's gonna be a while before I'm confident enough to try teaching anything with C++ and Unreal Engine. So, surprisingly simple decision tree for an AI that's so effective. It just goes to show that you don't need, for behavior that appears to be really complex, you don't need a whole lot of complexity in your decision trees. That's something I could probably try to learn from, because my decision trees definitely, I just don't have a lot of experience with. I've done a little bit of stuff with AI and decision trees in the past. A bit of stuff for a melee combat system, a bit of stuff for a shooter combat system. But the shooter combat system was years ago, back when I was first learning the engine, and then melee stuff. There were some other things with that system I need to sort out before I go back to the NPC AI for it, with the actual way it's set up with the montages it uses and that kind of stuff. No, I have not done any streams on that. I'm actually not I'm not. I've heard of it before, but I can't. I'm not sure what it is. I know I've heard of it though. Let's see. God, I love the new UI design for the forums. It looks so much better, to me at least. It's much more polished. Ah, okay. So I see. I see. You're talking about how the I mean, when you say that, I'm envisioning a sort of the dynamic movement of the arms. Yeah, that's what I was thinking, but I know what you're talking about now. Gotcha. So, there's a GDC talk. I think there's a GDC talk on a bit of how they did some of their animation for that. I don't recall anything on the interpolation, but gosh, how long ago was it? It was over a year for sure. I put together, I don't think I have the project on my computer anymore, which really sucks, but I just used transform modify bone nodes and an anim graph with a bunch of IK to do a completely procedural animation setup for a first person animation setup. It had all the dynamic movement, the rotation, the lagging behind as you rotate and move your camera around. It had procedural movement for walking around. I was really happy with how it turned out for just trying to do it with transform bone nodes in an older version of Unreal Engine 4 before Control Rig. Um, there are issues with it, but it's been forever since I've looked at it, or I really don't think it's on the computer anymore either. Maybe it is. I don't see why I would have deleted it unless I, deleted it along with a bunch of other stuff when cleaning out my computer. Yeah, yeah, it can be achieved through animations. It can probably be done procedurally too. Control Rig is in full body IK might be the way to go, but I'm not sure. You could definitely animate and layer over animations, or aim offsets too. I know there's a GDC talk on it, and there's newer tools. Like here, I'll pull up YouTube and see if I can find it. GDC Destiny first person animation. Let's see if that does it. Yep, here we go. It's the Art of Destiny's first person animation. I have it pulled up on my other monitor, but I will throw the link straight into chat for the stream. Yeah, there are definitely newer, better technologies with Unreal Engine, with Control Rig, with the IK, but there's still some fundamental good information in that talk. And you could probably use that and take that into account with what you do with your system with the newer tools that we have with Unreal Engine. So, what else could be? Metasounds. That's something I want to that's something I wanted to look at with this. I've barely spent any time with metasounds, but I want to see if I can find where they're doing the music, because I really think they're doing it with metasounds. I mean, it's a new feature. They'd want to use it as much as they could, and it sounds synthesized. It is synthesized, so why not do it in metasounds? So it'd be in content or plugins. Content, audio. Oh, cool. I haven't seen that one. I'll have to check that talk out too. Thanks for mentioning it. Oh, wait. I think it's coming back to... I think I actually do remember watching that one now. It's been forever, but I think it just came back to me there. Just took me a second. I'll have to give it another watch before I do any more first-person shooter stuff. It's been a while. And the game that was going to be first-person is going to be a third-person one now, but I haven't worked on it in a while, and I won't be. I'm working on a couple of other projects before I come back around to that one, but there's still a lot that you can apply. So, let's see. Effect metasounds. Here we go. Okay. Let's see. Uh, Gosh, it's been forever. I don't even remember how to play a metasound from the metasound editor thingy. Alright, thanks for the link. I'll be sure to check it out. What are the chances that it comes up if I just search music and audio? I'm just gonna start playing. So these are all menu sounds. These are useful sounds here in this project. Okay. So these are individual sound clips. I was hoping that some of this stuff would actually be generated meta sounds, but I'm sure they put it together there. I'm just not sure where at in the project that would be. I haven't spent enough time with metasounds yet. I've been too focused on other things, and again, I'm not a sound person. I prefer to spend my Unreal Engine time doing other things. Metasounds is awesome, but it's just not one of the things here that I'm super excited about or interested in, but I can see the benefit of it. I'm excited for the people that do this stuff and excited for what they could figure out with it. So I'm over on my other monitor briefly here, and I'm navigating back over to the Lyra project file. I'm going to go ahead and open up the Visual Studio solution for it, because I have not looked at any of the C++ stuff yet, and so much of it is built on custom C++ code. I'm not a programmer, but okay. So I'll have to generate Visual Studio project files, which I can do. And while it does that, I'll go ahead and show you guys the animation stuff. I haven't done that yet, I guess because I spent so much of my own time looking at that, I didn't think to go back and do it here on stream yet. But if you go to characters, heroes, mannequin, animations, we'll find the mannequin base animation blueprint. And so straight off in the animation graph, we have our Locomotion state machine. And it's built a bit differently than you might expect. There's a new type of sort of state here. It's not a state, it's what is it called in Elias, and essentially you can give it a set of, like here you have pivot sources, and you can say that you want to pivot from the start state and the cycle state but no other states. You can plug that into pivot, and then you can give it a condition that's for both of those states. And if I'm in the start state and this condition becomes true, I'll move to the pivot state, even though the start state is not connected to the pivot state. It does the same thing with the jump. So that's really cool on its own. But then if you were to go into, let's just say, the cycle, you'll see a linked anim layer for a full body cycle state. You click on it, there's nothing there. And that threw me off for a little bit when I first looked at this. What's happening is that the animation layer interface that this uses is also used by a set of animation blueprints that all use this animation blueprint item layer base as their parent class. And so this here, and then our main blueprint has code somewhere in the event graph. I haven't looked at it yet, but from reading the documentation on the animation layers, which I had to revisit briefly, it's essentially being assigned one of the children animation blueprints from this item anim layers based blueprint, which contains lots of the logic for these individual states. Its anim graph is empty too, but for the anim layers, let's look at like full body aiming has stuff going on. Let's try to find a pivot. Full body pivot state. It has a pivot state machine with all the pivot stuff in here, a sequence evaluator with the update pivot anim functions assigned to it which have distance matching inside of them, I think. I haven't looked at pivots yet. Sorry, I have the hiccups. I'm trying to suppress them. And there's orientation warping, stride warping, and an out animation pose. And this output animation pose for like this pivot layer is then what's being referenced. It's being, these layers for this animation blueprint are being overridden by the layers for the blueprint of the currently used item. And so if we were to go to the pivot state, it's using the full body pivot state from the currently held item animation blueprint. From that layer inside of, it's using the pivot state layer, the pivot state linked anim layer from the separate animation blueprint with the animations and things assigned to it for a specific weapon, the equipped weapon. No, just for a specific weapon that is a child of the animation blueprint item anim layers base. And these states, these linked layers for this blueprint are being overridden by the linked layers from that blueprint. I know there's a way to do it from the blueprint graph. Off the top of my head, I can't tell you how. I'd have to find it here. And then I'm sure I'd be able to catch on. But I know that's the process. It's a super, super expandable structure. I'm going to go ahead and open up the Visual Studio solution. I don't know if I'm gonna understand half the stuff here, but it's worth a shot. So let's see, we have source, Lyra game, ability system. I want to look at that. Character, I actually want to, I'm gonna look at the character first. Looks like they have their own movement component. So let's take a look at the header first. We have core minimal modular character, gameplay cues, and then gameplay tag interface. Okay, that's interesting. So replicating acceleration, base character. So the Lyra character is the base character pawn class used by the project, and it's responsible for sending events to pawn components. New behavior should be added through pawn components when possible. So it's using a actor component structure where, so really with object-oriented programming and Unreal, there are two approaches that I'm aware of that I can think of off the top of my head to approach a method of adding functionality to a base class. One way is a more standard object-oriented approach where you have your class and you create a child of that class, override what you need to override, add new functions in. And then, but Unreal has the base UObject class that pretty much everything inherits from, and then inheriting from that is the actor class and the actor component class. And what's pretty much, I think, the better workflow for Unreal Engine is to build the actor component to build components with functionality and then add them to your actors. But you'd also want to be really careful not to code anything, and this applies to Blueprint and C++, in a way where there are circular dependencies. That's something you always would want to avoid. The character class should, or the pawn or whatever class you're adding a component into, should never need to know the state of what's going on in that component. But the component can know some things about the character it's attached. You just don't want them depending on each other. One can depend on the other, but you don't want them depending on each other, or it can make things can get out of hand. So that's just a good thing to keep in mind whenever you're building out blueprint structures. And so, yeah. wanted to check Discord quickly, because I have a programmer friend who sometimes watches these streams, and I was worried I was saying something that was completely wrong. And that's why notifications were coming in. But I'm pretty confident in what I just said. I'm not going to say anything about actual coding practices and C++ stuff, because I only know a little bit of C++, and I know nothing about UE4++, as I'll call it, which is just all the custom things in Unreal Engine. The biggest thing I've programmed is a possible combinations generator where you input like different traits or things you'd want to generate combinations for, and you run it from the command line, and the part that generates the actual combinations is a recursive function that from Stack Overflow. But I'm still proud of all the other code in there for actually inputting and sorting out and managing all the prompts and using the vector library. It was my first program that I actually wrote to completion. So even if I use Stack Overflow for the most important part. So not a lot here in the Lyra character. Oh, I'm in the header. Ah, of course. Yeah, I knew that at the start. I went off on a tangent there and scrolled and saw it end, and I was surprised. But no, we're in the header. That makes sense. Because we're just defining functions. Okay. So there's a lot of C++ going on with the Lyra character. There's a lot of modularity involved. I definitely want to make videos on it. But since there's just a lot for me to learn here before I'm ready to do that. There's a lot of new things here that I'm not familiar with yet. Not super familiar with yet. But as soon as I get to that point, I definitely want to make videos on this stuff. But I'm personally haven't spent enough time in the project to know how to do that yet myself. So okay, so let's take a look at the C++ file for the Lyra character. Just trying to keep the stream varied and interesting. Trying to cover different things briefly, not too thoroughly, because I don't know all this stuff thoroughly. It's new. It's just as new to me as it is to all of you guys. So I'm learning and figuring out. I'm learning a ton of stuff from it, and I'm figuring out how it works as I go. And I haven't. I said that I've scratched the surface of the animation system. I haven't. Today is the first day I've so much as touched the surface of anything that's not the animation blueprint. This is completely new to me. The entirety of the project is new to me still, minus the animation blueprint. So I think this is just no. Is this the? Is it just yeah? I don't know enough about C++ or the structure of how Unreal structures their things. So yeah, here we go. Yeah, this is the initialization for stuff because I recognize these settings from the details panel in the blueprint editor, setting the character movement component. Okay. I'm starting to catch on. We're setting this, so we're constructing it here, and now we're moving on, and here we have the begin play. And this isn't a specific character, this is what the characters would inherit from. It's a pawn class with what I think might be its own custom movement component. Let's look at Unreal Engine. So we have the simple hero pawn, which uses a Lyra hero component, AI perception, Lyra context effect, just regular character movement, it looks like. So I want to see if there's any more blueprint code for the characters here. So let's see. Content. Maybe it would be in characters, heroes, mannequin. No, because these are just assets, it looks like. So I'm going to play. Going to immediately eject. I'm going to browse to the asset. Shooter core content. There's a blueprint for the mannequin. Again, it's using the modular gameplay framework, so things aren't structured like you'd usually see in a usual project, and it's a bit more to wrap your head around. I'm personally not used to it, which is why it's taken me so long to navigate things, because things aren't in the places I first think to look for them in. So yeah, there's blueprint stuff here now. So let's look at where is input being handled? They're doing input in a really interesting way. I was talking about it to someone else on Discord a couple of days ago. We were going back and forth. He mentioned, what did he mention about it? To scroll up a bit. So it uses enhanced inputs to create input mappings. The hero component consumes those mappings and uses the Lyra input component to bind those inputs. So you can attach the hero component to any pawn, which means that instead of writing code to handle inputs for a player, your character, vehicle, yeah, you can attach. So you can attach a hero component to your player, vehicle, and or other inhabitable pawns or controllable pawns so that they can handle input. So by attaching the hero component to a pawn, the pawn becomes a player-controlled pawn, and it means that all player input is consolidated in the hero component instead of spread out in your character classes. It creates more complexity on the back end, but it is super flexible. So that's some. I'm just paraphrasing out of a Discord conversation in another server. So hero component. So let's go back over to the Visual Studio file. Here we go. Lyra hero component header file and Lyra hero component C++ file. So let's look at the header and get overview. So not a lot of comments here. Okay, that's fine, I guess. So is pawn ready to initialize? Begin play, end play. Initialize, so there's an initialize player input function, which takes in an input component and a player input component. And input ability, input tag pressed. So some input stuff for gameplay tags for the gameplay ability system it uses. Input move, looking with the mouse, looking with the stick. Input crouch, input auto run. So that's interesting. It looks like movement is set up as there's no move forward and move right, I guess. There's just a move and then a looking around at the mouse and a looking around at the stick. Because you can use enhanced input to do that. Then you could just take in a 2D vector, or read a 2D vector and consolidate all that into a single input. So if I just search up, let's see here. I'm just going to go to all here. Try input. Okay. Okay, nope. I'm going to try input in, not engine. That's the thing I don't want to search for input in. I'll first search for it in plugins. And I'm going to look for input actions. Here we go. Here's input action. Let's see, input action, toggle map, toggle marker in world. So let's check the content for movement input actions. I think just plug in specific things for like shooter core there. Oh yeah, there's an input folder right here. So input actions, here we go. And so these are like the universal actions that everything uses. And here we go. Look mouse, look stick, and move. Oh, we're not looking for actions, we're looking for mapping contexts. My bad. It's been a bit since I've worked with enhanced input. So now for move, we just take in a gamepad left thumbstick two-dimensional axis instead of an X and a Y. So yeah, and then we're using an input mapping context for gamepad and one for the keyboard. So it looks like it's switching back and forth between those two, depending on which one you're currently using. Which makes sense because it has code built in to detect. Gosh, I'm yawning so much this morning. To detect whether you're using a gamepad or not, because I can use the gamepad, press something, and all the user interface icons will change to match a gamepad, which is another great feature. I want to find how it does that and implement it in my own stuff too. And little things I'll try to figure out and cover in individual videos as I work my way up to trying to understand the bigger things and the C++ based things in Lyra, which that'll take me a while, I'm sure. So, have I worked with retargeting IK bones in UE5? Not the IK retargeting tool, but the IK bones themselves. They always end up offset when I do it. No, I have not worked with that yet. I've seen some stuff with the IK retargeter. I have not had a chance to actually retarget any animations with it yet. With the time I've spent in Unreal Engine 5, which, with the early accesses and the previews and, the release now, I've spent a lot of time working on some environment stuff for a project, and a lot of time working on some my mind blinked out there. Locomotion stuff in my streams for Unreal Engine 5, but the bulk of what my work with Unreal Engine recently, before the release of UE5, separate from what I've been doing for YouTube recently, which I want to get back to posting videos every week, has been work in Unreal Engine 4 on a project that we haven't moved to Unreal Engine 5 yet, but are starting the transition for now that it's been released. So I've spent time in Unreal Engine 5 here or there, but I haven't spent a whole lot of time with the new features past what I've shown on YouTube so far. A lot of my time in the more recent months has just been Unreal Engine 4 and working inside of it. So this has been a relatively sort of freeform stream. I've looked at a couple of different things, but what do you guys want to see? Is there anything you'd like me to look at in the project or with Unreal Engine 5? It doesn't have to be this one. Yeah, there is a ton of new stuff. It's like I'm learning. It's not like I'm learning Unreal Engine 4 all over again, but with the new stuff, it is. I'm trying to learn, but I want to try to learn it fast so I can turn around and make videos on the stuff. But yeah, there's a lot of new things to learn about Unreal Engine 5. But is there anything you guys want me to cover here in this project specifically, or just in Unreal Engine 5? I think next week I'll stream some of the stuff from the Matrix Awakens demo that we have access. We don't have access to the full demo. We have access to the city though. So I'd like to play around and stream in that. But I haven't made the 80 gigabytes of space on my solid state drive that I need for. I haven't cleared that out. So I haven't downloaded the demo yet, and I do not want to put it on my hard drive. I'd much rather put it on my solid state drive. I'm not sure if I'm gonna have room. I'm not sure if I'm gonna have room for it there. So we'll see. But I'm gonna get it installed on one of my drives, downloaded on one of my drives, and I'll stream it next week. But yeah. But I'm happy to try to cover what I can here, of what you guys want to see, because I didn't really come into this stream with much of a plan. I try to come into my other streams with a plan, but this one, it's all so new. There's nothing I could choose to pick out to try to cover, because I don't know enough yet about the new stuff with the Lyra game, with the stream. And I mean, I could just go and work more on the locomotion system that I've been doing. I'm just copying over Lyra stuff for in the next 30, 40 minutes or so, but I don't want to bore you guys with me just moving nodes from one graph to another manually, just so I can have enough time to process things in my head with what I'm doing. Yeah, the mesh deformation on the vehicles is something I got really excited about when I was watching those initial videos for the demo. So, so the game features. I can go into that a little bit. So, for example, let's go and let's just dive into one of them here and look at it together, because it's pretty new to me too. I did a video on it in the past with my bite-sized Unreal Engine 5 stuff, but those videos were essentially me converting some of the documentation stuff into a video format and paraphrasing or rephrasing along with some extra stuff there, which I think is useful for people who go to YouTube instead of the documentation to learn things. But at that point, I didn't know a lot and I didn't have experience with it, and I still haven't looked into it much since then. But let's take a look at Shooter Core. I'm not sure. I think there's a lot of C++ stuff going on in Lyra. So, um, there's a lot of stuff done in C++. I'm not sure if the multiplayer is. If I had to guess, I'd say it's probably done in C++. It seems like the core stuff really is done in C++, and then the more cosmetic stuff is done in blueprints. I mean, there is blueprint logic in this project, but the core stuff that everything is built on is done in C++ for the most part, as far as I've seen. So, yeah, so in shooter core content, we have, like, so essentially, if you're creating, so the documentation gives you a pretty good place to start with the modular gameplay framework. You just create a plugin. I'm pretty sure there's a setting you have to select again. It's been months since I've looked at this. And in that plugin, you just put in everything, all your logic, all of that kind of stuff. Now, how you access that from your main stuff, it's been a while. And the Lyra might do it a bit differently because it's using a gameplay ability system. So let's look at weapon. There's a grenade, and there's a blueprint for that grenade. And there's an event for begin play, an event for detonate, an event for hit, and an event for teleport. For spawning the grenade, I'm not actually sure. There's an event for... Okay. Let's see. I'm not sure where it would spawn. That'd be a good thing for us to try to find, because it would help to understand how the modular gameplay framework things like this grenade blueprint are used by or with things that are in the core content folder. So let's see. Yeah, it's a great example when it comes to workflow and how you'd want to properly structure a project with C++ and with blueprints. It's definitely given me the push I need to try to learn more Unreal Engine related C++. I'm probably gonna, I've had one of Tom Lumen's courses on Udemy for a while. I'm probably gonna spend some time on that, diving into that. He has some great sources on C++ with Unreal Engine, and it's an Unreal Engine 4 course, but it'll still apply to Unreal Engine 5 just fine. So I'll go through that, and hopefully, because I know a tiny bit of C++, tiny bit, I can't stress how tiny that tiny bit is that I know, and I'm familiar with Unreal Engine and working in it and with blueprints and all these other things about it, that I should be able to catch on, because I'll need to cover the stuff in this project, because so much of it is dependent on the C++. It is great. It really is, yeah. It's interesting. You can draw the line between Blueprint and C++ in so many different places for these things, for these projects. If you don't know C++, you can do an all Blueprint game, or you can do an all C++ game. Unreal doesn't force that line, and that's a great thing about Unreal Engine, but at the same time, there's still going to be things that are better done in C++. C++ compiles code for Unreal compiles straight into machine code, while Blueprint compiles so essentially the Unreal Engine has a process that runs at runtime that is taking in the code that Blueprint gets converted into and processing it, while C++ code gets converted straight into machine code. So it's always going to be faster. So there are cases where you'd want to build things that are going to be used constantly by your game all the time in C++, like an ability or action system. Those core components are always going to be better built in C++. They're going to be more optimized, but it doesn't mean you can't build them in blueprints. It's going to be not as fast, but blueprints are really powerful in their own right. And there are aspects of the engine that aren't available to you in blueprints that are available to you in C++, but you can still make a whole game in blueprints. You can make a whole game in C++, but what's probably the optimal workflow is what you see in the Lyra shooter game. It's a great mix of C++ and blueprints, and they follow really what are probably the best practices when it comes to using them together. I just need to learn some C++ so I can stay up to speed with all this new stuff here. So let's see if we can figure out how this is spawned in before we end. Oh, okay, but it's not in the mannequin. And the input is handled in the hero component. But how is the input handled in the... Yeah, there's C++ and blueprints are tied together. They're really, really tightly. And all of this whole project is new to me right now during this stream, so I'm trying to wrap my head around it here, but the best way to do that would probably be just to start and read through everything, C++, blueprint, and try to understand it all. I mean, if you're going to be working with Lyra or with the stuff in it, and you want to move it into your own project, I'd you're going to have to be able to understand the C++ in it. Um, I'd say go Tom Lumen. His great courses on Udemy for C++ and Unreal Engine. I'd say go through and do those, and they'll get you pretty far. That's my plan, actually. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go do a course or two of his on C++ with Unreal Engine 4 before I come back around and do a deep dive into the Unreal Engine 5 Lyra C++ stuff. The surface stuff, the animation blueprint stuff, that's all in editor I can understand, I can do, but the C++ stuff, that's I'm gonna have to take some time to learn more of that before I can turn back around and teach you guys or move the Lyra character into another project with all of its abilities. Yeah, yeah. But that doesn't mean that I won't be making content on Unreal Engine 5 that's not C++ related soon. I'm starting a whole new blueprint tutorial series soon here. I'm going to... The end goal of that series will be having a little game. I haven't decided what kind of game, but it's going to be a complete game. I've decided I don't want to touch the character component with that. I want to try to keep it all in a pawn component to keep things really, really simple. And to really go over the basics of the engine, I want to cover things like replication there. And I was thinking like a mix between asteroids and Space Invaders, but make it multiplayer, or I don't know, but I thought something like that would be interesting because we could utilize some chaos destruction with the asteroids and do some really interesting things. We'd build a blueprint gameplay framework for it, and use enhanced input and make use of some of the new stuff, but the main focus of it will just be playable game. It won't be setting up a character with animation and locomotion stuff. That'll be another series I'm planning on doing. And then the environment stuff I'll want to do separately too. But then I want to come back around and bring it all together in an even bigger series down the line, where we'll create a game with a humanoid character, with locomotion, with some really cool stuff. Yeah, potentially, yeah, they could have potentially cut some corners, Cole. At the same time, I think it's still probably a better example than a ton of what's out there. It is a complete game. It uses Epic Online services. Chances are, I mean, heck, you might be able to. I'm curious to see whether or not they actually have anything running for it so that if you were to build the game and search for a game and someone else had built the game and started a game, if you could actually join and do it multiplayer like that. But I know absolutely everything is here for it to be a complete game, and it's not a demo like the old shooter demo. It's the whole game is here. So yeah, it's better than, even if it's not the perfect example of everything, it's better than most of everything else out there, if not the best thing out there right now. So if you're going to study any project to learn from it, Lyra is the one to study, in my opinion. Let's go back to... So yeah, the grenade, the modular gameplay stuff. I'd look into it more right now in the stream, but I'm not familiar enough with... There's too much C++ stuff here for me right now. I need to learn more C++ before I look into this side of the project. Until then, I'm a little stuck here, which sucks. But it's the incentive I need to learn what I need to learn there, and I'm repeating myself now, so how about we go and... There's just so much here, it's overwhelming. Gosh. How about... Let's try that third game mode and see if it works now. I don't know why it would work now when it didn't earlier, but let's just see. file, open, here we go, recent levels, and let's open the front end level. Oh, not the front end level, I guess it's the default level. So file, open, recent level, default editor overview. And let's play. I'll go ahead and full screen it, and oh, actually, I'm gonna click on the credits here because I'm curious to. Oh, okay. I thought it would actually give credits to the people who worked on the project because I was curious to see if Caleb Longmire was involved in the Locomotion system, since he built the advanced Locomotion system and then got hired by Epic Games, but those aren't actual credits, so never mind that. The third mode is this exploder game mode, and the character is in an A pose. I have no idea what you're supposed to do here. I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be multiplayer, but I really have no idea what the goal of this is, or how you're supposed to play it. And if the character is even supposed to be in an A pose. If there's anywhere they cut corners, I think it might be this. Yeah, I'm just mashing buttons now. Oh, something happened there. Something happened, okay. I'm dead. And I'm not respawning. Let's try that again. Ah, I forgot to set my settings again. So it's like K. So K just blew me up. Well, I think I'm gonna go back to a different mode for now. Just click play and go with whichever one it gives me. There's a ton of stuff here I want to dive into with just the UI and loading screens, the way it manages levels and game modes. It's all super, super useful stuff that I want to I'd like to try to dive into, eventually cover on the channel. I need to heal. Where are they at? I know they're back here, but I'm about to die, so I have to try to get to that health canister thing. Alright. Got one. I'm much more of a sniper in these types of games. I like to just sit back, find a vantage point, zoom in more because my aim isn't that great. Yeah, was not trying to jump back up. Nope, 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 nope. Trying to sneak down through there. Somehow we're tied. Not sure how. Where did he go? And I aimed that incorrectly. I hear gunshots now. Back. Yeah, there they are. Yeah, it's a super impressive demo starter game. Can't remember if they refer to it as a demo or not, or I'm pretty sure they call it a starter game, but yeah, it is pretty amazing. We have such a great example to just learn from. There's so many things going on here, just like with the sound and when it decides to play the ambient sounds, that kind of stuff. I have no idea how it's doing it. I haven't looked at it yet, but there's so much to look at and to learn from here. Wow, I actually got that one. I'm surprised. Gosh, I need to up there. I'm not sure which side gets me up to the top. Or is it random? I have to go back out. That makes sense. Yeah, those teleporters are certainly useful. Yeah, this game is it's a project you can download from the Epic Games market for the Unreal Engine Marketplace. It's free, put out by Epic Games for Unreal Engine 5. And it's pretty much a complete game here. It's a fantastic learning resource. I'd say a good amount of it is. It plays just like Fortnite. The animation system is pretty much Fortnite. The animation system is a mix between what they did for Paragon and Fortnite. The underlying gameplay logic, I'm sure, is all Fortnite. Why change it when you have something that works as well as that does for a third-person shooter? I do not see them reinventing the wheel when they can just name it to Lyra instead of Fortnite and move their code over and change some of their comments. Yeah, it's a great UI setup. They're using there's a new plugin built into Unreal Engine 5 for it that it uses. Yeah, I definitely say if you do UI, it's probably a great thing to look at and reference. Yeah, it's crazy, just how much how little they ask in return for this, giving this engine and all this stuff out for free. It's Yep. Yeah, yeah, if Unreal Engine wouldn't have been made, Unreal Engine 4 wouldn't have been made to be a free engine, I don't know where I'd be in terms of game development, and yeah, I really don't know. I guess I'd be with Unity. I have nothing against Unity, but it's not nearly as powerful of an engine. It's good at what it does. It does some things really well, but Unreal is a much better engine for me personally. For the kinds of things I want to do and the kind of games I want to make. Just for the game development, like the hobbyist game development community, with Unreal Engine being made free back with Unreal Engine 4, just how much that's grown, just the difference. Like, I remember trying to find Unreal Engine tutorials when I first started learning, how the amount there were on YouTube then compared to now. It's grown. There's been so much growth just in the online community around game development and with Unreal Engine, and I'm feeling that's just going to really continue with Unreal Engine 5. And just thinking back to Unreal Engine 4 and 4.16 or 4.17 is when I first downloaded the engine. I think. I might be wrong. This was a while ago. I'd have to probably double check the dates on those releases to know for sure. But just how many things were added to Unreal Engine between then and 4.27, and it just they're constantly updating and adding things to the engine. So I'm really excited to see what's next with 5.1, 5.2, so on and so forth. Yeah, that's definitely true. I haven't seen much about that bad reputation for it, but maybe I'm just not. I'm sure it's there. I'm not arguing that. I've seen it with Unity, but does it have a wider base than Unreal? I'm not sure, but it's still a good engine. I like Unreal more. Unreal's definitely a more powerful engine, better at lots of things. But I've seen that around Unity. I haven't noticed that around Unreal. Yeah, it's just the truth of if you release something for free, you're going to have people that don't make absolutely fantastic things with it. And if anything, Epic gave everyone a big nudge to make better games with this, by releasing this Lyra demo as an example of what they could be doing. That one's coming from first. I actually survived much longer this time than I have ever before in this. I'm not super terrible at these games. I mean, I'm not as good as many people, but I can get into a bit of a flow state if given enough time. I just need an hour to fail over and over again before I do, I guess. Yeah, the free assets are absolutely mind-blowing. I mean, this, but then also the content from The Matrix Awakens. It's crazy. I'm curious about whether or not Unreal is going to be doing their own procedural stuff. There's some procedural geometry stuff in Unreal Engine 5. There's a plugin, I can't remember what it's called, but it's what some of the stuff they're showing in part of the keynote where they're playing around with some of the modular pieces here was using it to procedurally generate geometry. But the only thing that sucks about the Matrix Awakens stuff is that it's built on. I mean, Houdini's a great program. The problem is that it's so expensive for lots of people. Like love to buy it someday when I can afford to buy it. The problem is affording to buy, being able to afford purchasing Houdini. I'm not against paid programs at all. Houdini is just too expensive for me right now. And I'm sure for a lot of people in the development community. Oh gosh, I'm almost dead here. That's interesting to hear. I haven't done much with Houdini Engine, but it is great that they've made that free for Unreal, so that, yeah. I have Houdini and Apprentice installed on my computer, but I haven't messed around with it very much yet. It's just such a different way of thinking about things with all the procedural stuff. But I'd love to learn the program at some point. Oh yeah, I wasn't even thinking about the indie license there. I was thinking about the perpetual license when I was thinking of the price in my head. Yeah, 300 isn't bad at all, because I've already grabbed the perpetual licenses for 2021 or 2022 versions of Substance Designer and Painter, just because those are both great programs. I wanted to grab perpetual licenses from Steam before they disappear. Now that Adobe has acquired Algorithmic. It's been a while since I looked at the licensing and pricing for Houdini, so I can't remember what the difference are between the indie and the whatever they call their professional versions, a step above indie. Here soon, probably play through the rest of this match, continue to talk with you guys. Videos are on the way for the channel. I know it's been forever. I've just been doing streams. Now that Unreal Engine 5 is here, I was kind of just trying to wait for Unreal Engine 5 to launch. I felt like it was coming really soon. Now I'm going to really get back to that one video a week schedule. Yeah, I'm sure it can. It's amazing. From what I've seen, it's such a powerful piece of software. And procedural modeling is going to become really, I think it's going to be really important going forward. Just because of the amount of detail Nanite can take in, it can use. There's really, to use it, you're going to be doing, I mean, you can use it with low poly meshes, but to push it, to push the levels of detail, you're going to either need to use completely 3D scanned objects, or, I mean, yeah, you could go into ZBrush and you could sculpt stuff, but that's not super feasible for a lot of, I mean, there's a lot more work that goes into creating a high polygon asset and sculpting it than taking a mid-poly to low-poly asset and throwing a texture, a good PBR texture up together in Substance Designer and slapping that onto it with parallax occlusion or tessellation, or just, you know, using a regular normal map. So I think procedural modeling will be really big with Nanite. And yeah, because you need an easy way to add a level of detail onto things. Like, you could sculpt too much sculpting when there's that much detail in every object. I'd love to eventually learn and get Houdini. they could definitely, certainly. But one thing, it's Unreal Engine 5 is really great at compressing the nanite stuff. Really, really great at it. From what I've seen, I can't remember the exact rates, but like a 500,000 triangle, or maybe it was a million. I don't remember. There's a forum kind of post about it and a thread on it, but some of the big meshes, maybe not billion triangle meshes, maybe not even million, but I think like maybe it's 500,000, maybe it was a million. I don't remember the exact number, but it was still big, and it was fitting into a size. It was fitting in a megabyte, smaller than most, you know, smaller than the normal map you could get rid of by using the geometry instead, essentially. So it seems like if most nanite meshes, if you aren't going absolutely crazy with your polygon count in the millions, multi-millions to billions, if they can be compressed to less than the normal map you could easily replace with the high quality mesh, then I don't know. But yeah, the size for like the demos they put out, the sizes have been huge. But I'm curious to see where the compression stuff goes. Yeah. I mean, think about it this way, just like, it's interesting, I just watched like a 30-minute video the other day on how PNG compression works, and it's all about looking for patterns, and when you have that many tiny triangles, I bet you could compress a lot of that, because I wonder how many of those triangles are the same triangle in a different orientation, in a different place, connected to different triangles. I don't know, but maybe there's something there, to the point where where a lot of it is positions of triangles and not transformations of triangles, and not, you know, transformations of vertices. I don't know, or triangle clusters even. I really don't know. Don't know much about a whole lot about compression. And of course it's going to apply to 2D differently than 3D, but I'm curious to see where that goes, because compression will definitely need to be top tier for, you know, the sizes of these games to be feasible. The sizes are getting bigger, and bigger as time goes on. Like just the wattage on the newer GPUs, and what it's going to go up to with the next generation of NVIDIA cards is crazy, especially with the high-end ones. Yeah, so it seems to be a running theme of things getting bigger and taking more power or space on a computer with game development. Yeah, so I'm curious to see how much of an effect the oodle compression stuff has. Oh, that's funny. Yep, I totally built this whole animation system, and you know, between the day Unreal Engine 5 launched and now I've added all the Fortnite stuff. That's definitely what happened. Yeah, Misguided Games, it's funny, I keep stopping myself from referring to you by your name because you talk so much on other stuff, about other stuff, during these streams. You just joined. Was just about to end out the stream. I'm not sure if you just joined or, I mean, from the message it sounds like that, but I could be wrong. But it'll of course be up on the channel though as soon as I end it. So, but yeah, guys, I think I'm gonna end out the stream here. I couldn't go into much in depth just because there's so much here and so much C++ stuff that I don't know enough about yet. But hopefully there's something of value here, and just I think we had a good time. The chat was a whole lot more active in this stream than it's usually been. It has me excited, so I'm hoping that can continue. Because I really enjoy the conversation with all you guys and just being able to talk back and forth live. It's a big part of why I made the Discord server too. It's so much easier to have conversations than in the comments. So I'll go ahead and just in case some of you guys aren't in it, I'll send you guys all an invite link to the Outcast Dev School Discord server before I end out the stream here. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video, which should be coming out before the next stream, and then I want to continue the streams, but as I go back to putting out videos on the channel again, not just streams, I'm considering moving streaming over to Twitch. I don't know anything about the platform though, so I'm not sure if I should do both or Twitch or stick with YouTube, but I'll probably do a poll on it and try to get all of your opinions on that, in probably Discord and in a community post for the YouTube channel. But anyway, I'll see you guys next stream, next video over in the Discord. Thanks for watching the stream.